Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for a workshop on Metro's Adopt a Bike grant program. My name is Nancy Delgado, and I'm a transportation planner helping lead the Adopt a Bike program. I am joined by my two colleagues, Adela and David. Please feel free to introduce yourselves.
Good afternoon. My name is David Lazarovsky. I'm a senior manager in countywide planning and development, and I'm supporting the management of this program. And I'll turn it over to Adela.
Hi, Adela Felix, Transportation Planning Manager, First and Last Mile Countywide Planning, overseeing this program. Thank you.
Thank you both. Next slide, please. Before we dive into the content of the presentation, let's review a few housekeeping points. For the purposes of this webinar, and for it to run as smoothly as possible, attendee cameras will be off and microphones muted. We hope this workshop will answer common questions, but if you have any outstanding questions at any point, please use the Q&A feature so we can provide clarity this afternoon. Lastly, this meeting is being recorded. We will have the video file available on our Adopt a Bike website. Following this meeting, we will provide participants with relevant information, such as links. Next slide, please. The purpose of this workshop is to assist prospective applicants who are interested in applying for Cycle 3 of Metro's Adopt a Bike grant program. We will be providing background information and reviewing the program guidelines as well as the application. Our overarching purpose is to continue working with community partners in benefit of residents throughout LA County. And as a reminder, we are currently accepting applications until 5 p.m. on August 3rd. Next slide, please. So, as the agenda notes, we will commence today's workshop with background information about the program before diving into the specific program requirements. Toward the end, we will review next steps and answer your questions. The use of the Q&A tool will be crucial to addressing your questions today. Next slide, please. So the Adopt a Bike program officially began following a 2020 board directive, which instructed Metro staff to implement a bicycle distribution program by collaborating with community-based organizations throughout LA County. This decision stems from the fact that 75% of the nearly 500 bikes transported to Metro's Lost and Found facility monthly were left unclaimed by the rightful owners. And according to state law, after a 90-day retention period, the unclaimed bicycles become Metro property. Previously, the remaining unclaimed bikes were sold at auction. But with the Adopt a Bike program, we now allow Metro to redistribute select unclaimed bicycles to high-need residents throughout the county with the help of community organizations. Next slide, please. Since the program's launch in 2021, our team has reflected on our success while identifying areas for improvement. Given our internal work with Lost and Found and external collaboration with community-based partners, we have streamlined our bicycle tracking system, for instance. This helps us trace any given bicycle by using a special ID that is created by our Lost and Found team when a bicycle is initially collected. The same tag number is then used when we have partners collect bikes before they administer the distribution or adoption process. Secondly, our team has adapted to providing timely relief during emergency situations. For instance, when the fires ravaged across Los Angeles last January, we worked with grantee partners to offer emergency response bicycle distribution. Another lesson learned includes setting up a framework for feedback from our CBO partners to enhance workflow. Approaches have included one-to-one follow-up meetings to hear from the grantees, piloting bike tagging assistance so we could have you, the bike experts, provide insight on what bicycles could be repurposed for adoption, and continuously learning about what bicycles work for adoption and which ones may not be incredibly suitable for recirculation. Finally, we have seen how impactful the program has been and have been able to increase funding by $15,000 per grantee per year since the start of the program. For this upcoming cycle, each grantee will be able to secure up to $35,000 per year for expenses related to this program. Next slide, please. So on program goals. The board approved the program to be permanent in 2023 and has authorized Metro staff to grant 5 select organizations with funding awards on a biannual basis. Our fundamental goal is to provide high-need residents throughout LA County with a bicycle to facilitate their travel to work, school, or recreational activities. Our intent is that this program provides greater mobility options for transportation and first last mile connections to transit. And as previously mentioned, the Adopt a Bike program aims to recirculate forgotten and unclaimed bicycles left on Metro property by working with partners who are already working to create meaningful impact in their communities. Given the variety of bicycles we get, it's important to note that we require organizations to bring the bikes that they choose to take up to a safe and secure standard before distributing them to the public. Next slide, please. To reiterate, this program provides up to $35,000 to each of the 5 select grantees per year for up to 2 years. The funding structure of this program operates on a reimbursement basis for the eligible expenses. You may use any portion of the grant to cover expenses such as new bike parts, like a tire or a saddle, transportation, such as renting a vehicle to pick up the bicycles from Metro, or for transferring them to a distribution event, storage, to keep the bicycles at a safe location, if need be, labor and safety gear for bike recipients, whether that includes helmets or bike lights, or really just any miscellaneous items. If at any point you have a question whether an expense is eligible, you're free to contact any one of us with the Adopt a Bike program. And also, we would like to see you include some of these expenses in your own application. And finally, we encourage grantees to invoice Metro on a monthly basis. Next slide, please. In this slide, we outlined 6 points on what makes an eligible applicant. We are expecting applicants are a registered charity or have 501c3 status who will work to prioritize and maintain equity goals. The third point refers to showing experience working with high-need communities, whether it's with those facing disparities in mobility options due to being low income or unhoused, for instance. Or it could also be because your organization is concerned with bettering health outcomes or generally increasing access to opportunities and resources. We are looking for applicants to demonstrate their capacity for regional bike distribution, storage, and transportation. So please make sure you address this in your application. Similarly, we require that applicants have an outreach and marketing plan to promote program awareness in the community. For instance, if there is an established annual event where you expect to distribute bikes and plan to use social media to promote the bike adoption opportunity at this event, please detail that in your application. Lastly, and as I previously mentioned, we want to ensure the safety of all bike recipients, so we are looking forward to an outline of a safety plan you will be providing. Perhaps that looks like a safety bike riding guide or something more robust. Next slide.
Thank you, Nancy. Hi, my name is Adela Felix. I'll continue this presentation moving forward. Again, this program, thank you, Nancy, for giving us our goals and what the goals of this program are. The focus of this program is basically to ensure equity and equitable distribution of these bikes throughout the county, and also prioritization of assisting high-need communities, and communities that lack mobility options, opportunity, and disparities of health. And so populations may include uh, those that are facing housing insecurity, people of color, low income. And if there's any more information that you would want on equity, I think you could also go to the Metro Equity Information Hub. Next slide. So this slide demonstrates Metro's adopted equity-focused communities map, which designates and assigns, identifies areas within the county with transportation needs, where the needs are greatest. Again, things that this EFC map illustrates are things like finding where the areas within the county that are low income, where there's people of color or indigenous backgrounds, also households that do not have access to a car. And so that's a link is provided here for if you are interested in identifying whether your organization serves an equity-focused community that has been as adopted by Metro, I would encourage you to visit and look through this map. Next slide. So partnering for this solicitation is not required. It's an opportunity that we encourage CBOs to do, but it's not required. It's also not attached to any points. If it serves your organization, or maybe, like different resources, different organizations might have different specialties, so on and so forth. By all means, we encourage that, and the greater collaboration, but also it would also allow for a greater reach of bicycle distribution within the county. Next slide. So now I'll go over the scoring. The application is available already in our landing page for those that have seen it. And so I will just kind of go briefly over the different categories that you'll be scored on for this application. Starting with general information, which includes just, your name, your organization's name, your contact information. This year, we also added just for you to give us a brief description of your organization and a background and your vision. And that's 10 points just for that. Then the next category is the work plan. The work plan is worth 25 points. And basically, in this section, we looked at you demonstrate an understanding of the proposal and what Metro is trying to accomplish. Also, this is where you would describe, what's the process? How are you looking to carry out this program? Do you have storage? Do you have already a plan to how to carry out your repair, storage, transportation, things of that nature? And also here you would also note, if you're going to be working with other organizations, who are they? What are their roles? And so forth. Followed by project feasibility. Project feasibility is worth 30 points. And basically in here, you would provide a general understanding and your financial capabilities. What are you capable of doing? And also with that, this is kind of attached to the attachment of the application, that within where you would also kind of give us a breakdown of how you would utilize these resources, the funding that's provided to you. Again, 35K, how would you use this on a yearly basis, and kind of a cross breakdown of all your expenses. And again, the labor, storage of the bicycles, also transportation, because you'll need to come and pick up the bikes from Metro that have been selected for the Adopt a Bike program. So there's that transportation aspect of it. So all these different aspects. And also this year, although we increased the budget, in addition to that, we also look that CBOs also look into providing like miscellaneous items, potentially helmets, lights, things of that nature. And lastly, equity is 35 points because the goal of this program. It's so equity focused, and so we're looking for innovative, and how are you going to demonstrate to us how you're going to reach those that are in most need of bicycles? And yeah, how will you be doing on a recurring basis? And lastly, there's a total, this whole application, total amount of points is 100 points, 70 being the minimum passing score. However, remember that we are only selecting the top 5, but you will need to have at least a 70% to even be considered for funding. Next slide. This slide kind of outlines a little bit of what I've talked about and how everything's basically an outline of the application. Again, the general information that we require from you, and then followed by the supplemental questions. Also the budget, there's also an attachment where you will have to include that. You'll have to complete it, and you will have to send it to our adoptabike@metro.net in order for you to have submitted a complete application. This year, also, one of the things that we've added is an ethics disclosure. This part of the application is not warranted any points. It's not scored, but it is required. Also, and at the end, we also have 2 additional questions. They're not required, but we encourage you to fill them out regardless. And so that's kind of that. Next slide. So this next slide provides a little bit of a timeline, kind of what the timeline has been. This application was released on Monday, June 1st, and today we're having our workshop. And note that they're due on August 3rd at 5 p.m. We will not be extending the deadline, knowing that this cycle we provided a pretty generous timeline. So that's the cutoff time. And so once that's done, will be followed by a 2-week evaluation period. We're going to have an evaluation panel. The evaluation panel consists of Metro staff throughout countywide planning. So just note that we're looking to have our kickoff in fall of 2026. And then once we go through the selection process, we'll also bring it up to our CEO. With her concurrence, we'll move forward. And cycle 3 begins November of 2026 and will run through October 2028. Next slide.
Okay. So we wanted to have some time for questions. This is a chance to use that Q&A feature. There are some questions that have already come in, and I'm going to read them and go through them live for everyone's benefit. So the first question is asking about reimbursement. What is the time frame of reimbursement? What are the common expenses that you receive an invoice for that are actually not reimbursable? And I'm going to pass that over to Adela, who I think has had a lot of experience working on
Yes,
this.
yes. So the invoicing piece, we encourage you all to invoice on a monthly basis. I realize also it hasn't happened to date, but we encourage you to submit your invoices as soon as possible. Ideally every month. And yeah, so. And again, the grant is for a total grant of 35K a year.
Are there things that people list, Adela, that aren't actually reimbursable, like commonly featured things like that?
I think no, I don't think I've ever had a problem with that. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's basically the labor. It's basically the storage, right? There's a whole process because if you're selected as a CBO for this next cycle, you'll have to come to Metro, pick up the bike. So that will require a transportation expense, right? You might have to rent a U-Haul, potentially, unless you have your own truck. So that it's pretty straightforward. Sometimes if also the gas for that, that it takes to fuel up the U-Haul, for example, is an eligible expense. The storage, you'll need to store the bikes. You're gonna take quite a bit of bikes, and so there needs to be that storage, um, that expense. And again, there's also like a little bit of a cushion also, but also miscellaneous items for bicycle recipients. This time we're kind of really encouraging that you also provide, look into potentially providing helmets and lights and anything that could be considered in support of this grantee's use of the bicycle. But again, by all means, you can reach out to us and we can confirm that. But I think it's pretty straightforward. It's been pretty straightforward.
Okay, great. Um, we also received a question regarding submitting new information that might help, if they've already submitted an application, submitting new information that would help their application. Because we have not closed the application process, I think that's perfectly okay. Please, please email us at adoptabike@metro.net and give us that information and provide information about, your original application. So just note who you are, when you applied, and provide that info. Okay. Next question. Can you please clarify capacity for regional bike distribution? What are Metro's expectations in terms of specific CBOs range within the county? I can start and I will pass it to all of you. So I think as far as capacity, I think we are thinking about regional distribution ability. So obviously, Metro supports all of LA County. LA County is massive, and we want to have some geographic equity along with the other equity goals of, distributing collected bicycles to the most needy. So we're looking at that, but we're also looking at staffing capacity to actually meet some of these goals. And staffing capacity to both collect and then distribute to folks around. So we're looking at, how many people you employ, how are they able to do this? So information about that. Adela, do you want to add anything, Nancy?
I think when we talk about like the regional distribution also is, we also want to understand the scope of, we understand, we don't expect this one CBO to distribute throughout the whole entire county. That is not, just want to clarify that. When we talk about the reach is that, we want you to be as clear as possible regarding the communities that you're gonna serve, so I mean, if you're saying that you're only serving X church, it's not enough. We're thinking more, a little bit more, a certain region. Maybe it's, Boyle Heights, East LA, Monterey Park area. I mean, it just depends. So I think that's how we're thinking about it, that you're not just specifically just distributing in a specific location, but, that you have a broader reach. But I think even when you submit your application, yes, you might, your organization might focus in a certain area, but there's nothing that means that you cannot extend yourself if you have the capacity to do so. So, but I hope that answers or clarifies that.
Sorry. So another question asked, how many applicants have we received to date? We have 6 applications to date. Hoping to get more. The next question, when will the award be announced? I would say that's TBD. Again, application, window closes in August. We need the new cohort of CBOs and partners to start in November of this year. So we want to get that information out in as timely manner as possible to get all of you prepared to start the process on in November. So, um, bear with us. We will keep you posted as we go along. Um, is this call for applicants or CBOs? I'm an applicant. So I would say it's for all folks interested in applying for this program, who meet the eligibility requirements.
But David, just to
Yes,
clarify, this
yes,
is not for individuals seeking to adopt a single bicycle. This
yes.
is for organizations who want to receive the grant funding for this program.
Thank
So,
you for, thank you.
yes,
Yes.
if you are interested in a bicycle, please feel free to shoot us an email and we will definitely get back to you as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. That is a really good clarifying detail. Um, is this grant awarded to perform this work up front if selected? So I think as far as, the grant award, it's for reimbursement. So I think as we mentioned previously, we expect you kind of to pick up the cost up front, and then we reimburse you. And we would prefer a cadence of a monthly invoice, should you be selected. How many bikes are we expected to distribute? That's a really great question. I'm gonna give Nancy the floor because Nancy really works on that collection process, and maybe you could speak to kind of the variability of how many bikes we have, and the collection process as it works out.
Sure, that's a fantastic question. So, as we mentioned earlier during the slide, typically Metro's Lost and Found facility can receive up to 500 bikes per month that are not claimed by the owners. And not every one of those 500 bicycles is in great condition to recirculate into communities. So, really, it depends on the number of bicycles that can be repurposed. And normally, on a regular pickup basis, we see organizations take up to 10 bicycles, but I think their methodology for distributing the bicycles really depends on maybe if there is a large event. So perhaps they hold on to those bicycles for a while and then distribute them at that single event. So we encourage people to sort of describe their preliminary approach to adopting and distributing these bicycles within their application. But that's just my insight. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Adela.
Yes, also note that our inventory also is largely dependent on how many bikes are left on our system. I don't think Metro's ridership, it changes, right? There's more ridership during the summer versus like the winter months or the Christmas time or when it's cold, it's raining, things like that. So also realize that, it's the number that we gave you. I mean, it's a rough estimate, but it really depends on the ridership. It really does. And just note also that some of these bicycles are also probably could be bicycles that are left on Metro properties. So it could be, also from employees as well at the different divisions because we have divisions throughout the county. So also be aware of that.
Thank you, Adela. Um, Next question asks about this presentation being shared by email. So we are recording it. I believe we will have it available to be shared. So yes. Um, Following question. Um, have any CBO grantees ever listed a specific city as a partner, or are partners usually other CBOs, local bike shops? That's a great question. Adela, you have the institutional history, institutional
Yes,
knowledge of this.
I
Yeah.
think the partnership that we've experienced is usually with a co-op or so forth, or I know that some CBOs will work with local organizations. We have a current CBO that currently works in kind of with a couple schools that they have a relationship with and they distribute their bikes. They have events and things like that. And that has been usually the experience that we've had.
And just to add on to that, I think the partnership is also a great opportunity to uplift different strains. For instance, if your organization doesn't have bicycle knowledge, then definitely feel free to reach out to a local co-op, as Adela mentioned, and inquire about a potential partnership for this grant program.
Great. Um, when we have, okay, next question. When we have events in a community to distribute bikes, would Metro table these events with our organization? I think that's possible. Adela, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, we have, and sometimes we invite the CBOs to come to some of Metro sponsored events.
Hmm.
So
So yeah, that's something that could be worked out for, the successful applicant. Okay, moving on. Is there a minimum amount of bikes that need to be distributed? No, there's not a minimum. Again, I think kind of echoing what Nancy said earlier, it really depends on the supply that we have, and that's really varied month to month. Kind of as we discussed earlier in the presentation, that supply is also variable, right? Some bikes are better than others, and some are just not fit for distribution. Next question. Do we declare how many bikes we're permitted to have and what kind of shape the bikes are in? I'm not sure I totally follow that question. I think what maybe you're asking is kind of similar to that minimum question of collecting and then, stating that their status. I don't believe that's something we ask. Adela,
yeah,
I don't know.
we don't require you to pick up each time, but we do want to, I think just, trying to your best to, I think we've had a really good experience where CBOs will show up every month, but yeah, I mean, you're not required, but we do encourage that.
Right.
And just to add on to that, from the one-on-one lessons learned, we have heard from current partners that if they were given more funding, they would love to adopt more bicycles. So that just points to how possibly 8 to 10 bikes per month is maybe not enough to supply the need from those who are seeking to adopt a bike.
Thanks, Nancy. Next question. What is the turnaround time for reimbursement? That's a great question.
Once we receive the invoice, I mean, it could take anywhere between, could be a couple weeks or less. It just depends. I mean, it's an invoice. I mean, Metro's a large agency, so I think there has to go through an approval process. Um, I would say about a couple weeks, give or take.
Thank you. Are bike recipients required to sign a waiver releasing CBO and Metro from liability?
Yes, and thank you for bringing up that question. That's an excellent question. Yes, we do require that. Once we select and we have our kickoff with those that are selected as a CBO for this upcoming cycle, yes, we will provide you with, we've developed a release of liability. It's available both in English and Spanish. And so yes, that will be a requirement. And I think ideally this upcoming cycle, we would also encourage and really look that you provide those release of liabilities with your invoicing package as well.
Great. Thank you, Adela. Next question. Would collaborating with a previously awarded organization on this application, would that be a good thing or a liability? I can start by saying it certainly would not be a liability. I think we, in general, just fundamentally encourage partnerships and, we want to see regional collaboration. Um, and I think, just overall, we encourage that. Um, I don't know if Adela or Nancy, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that's not our problem. I mean, we're in cycle 2 right now. We have some returning um, CBOs from the last cycle. There's absolutely no problem except, yeah, not a problem.
Thank you. Okay. A few more here. Can bikes be taken for parts to repair other bikes in this program?
Yes, yes, you can. I know that sometimes, I know a particular CBO that we've worked with, there's some parts that sometimes we have good parts, but they're not a complete bike, for example, so I do know, I mean, that is possible. You can take bikes so that you can fix other bikes. Yes.
Okay. Next question. What are the eligibility requirements for community members seeking to obtain a bike? For example, age, income, city of residence. Do CBOs need to collect information from bike recipients? Who wants to jump in? Okay.
Yeah, part of what we do as well, and I think another thing one of the things that we ask is that we also have developed a short little survey. It's anonymous that recipients can fill out, and it'll ask just exactly those questions. We know it's difficult. It's not required. I mean, sometimes people don't feel comfortable, you know, sharing certain information. But we certainly do encourage that.
Does Metro require insurance from the CBO, such as automobile insurance and a COI?
I mean, we would think that if you're driving like a U-Haul to get to Metro to pick up the bikes, you would have it. We don't require it. We are not asking for verification. That's solely the responsibility of the CBO, that you make the responsible decision in that regard. But what we do require as part of this process is, again, these bikes from this program, they're used bikes, right? We're not giving you money to buy new bikes. We're giving you money to fix old bikes and make them safe. So that's also a big requirement and an ask that we have is that, some CBOs have like a mechanic in place. We just want to make sure that the bikes that, we're also seeking that the CBO has somebody with the expertise to fix them and also make them safe.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Adela. That was our last question. Can give it another minute or so, for other questions. I think overall, one of the things I just want to remind folks while we wait for additional questions is if you have submitted your application already, remember to submit the supplemental material by email. And the email is adoptabike@metro.net. It is very important for us to receive the full application for it to be considered. And we have another question that just came in. What is the general size of bikes you have? I would say I mean,
Adult
man,
bikes.
yeah, adult bikes. Yeah. I
For
don't
the
think we
most
have
part,
children's
yeah.
bikes. Yeah, right?
It's usually whoever's using our system, and for the most part, it's for adults. But I'll let Nancy, who I think you see these bikes every month.
No, you're definitely right. We receive the majority of the bikes we receive are adult-sized bikes. We've heard from our partners that e-bikes are normally a liability risk, so we try not to tag them. We also received kids' bikes, but those are very sparse. We don't see many kids' bikes being left forgotten or unclaimed. Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy. Is staffing an allowable cost for this program?
It is. It's the labor of overseeing the program, right? Somebody has to be in charge of the whole, the administration. Um, so yes.
Okay. To confirm, Metro does not require any insurance from the CBO or proof of insurance.
We don't know.
Is there a page limit requirements or attachment limits on the application? So there's word count limits on the actual application. I don't believe there are page limits for the attachments. No.
No, there aren't, but I also encourage applicants to use the thank you section, which will not be scored on, but there isn't a word limit there, so please feel free to share any additional information that you think would be necessary for those evaluating the applications.
Uh, do you do you have to just give the bikes away? Can you use them for a weekly bike club activation where we store them and the community comes and uses them? Believe the goal is to distribute the bikes for folks within the region. Yeah. So the answer is no. Um, can these funds be used to store bikes in a facility?
Yeah, I think we had mentioned it's also for storage. You might need to rent storage space. I don't know that, I don't know what kind of facility you have as an office, but if that's necessary, we will cover that expense. But we'll need to also see the backup as well.
Thank you. Another question about how many bikes would the organization be expected to distribute? I think just answering this one more time for folks who may have been joining in late. There's no number expectation. It's really variable based on how many bikes we get and how many bikes, working with our internal staff and you, the CBO expert and bike collection, how many we actually identify that are fit for redistribution. Okay, and that was the last question that we received. A few more coming in. Can we pay a contractor to repair for the bikes? I say so, yes. I mean, that could be part of your, costs associated with, the staffing for this program.
It also sounds like that would be under the partnership section. So if that's an approach you want to take, please feel free to complete the partnership section of the application accordingly.
One thing that I'm thinking about, and maybe I should have mentioned, when we talk about partnership, yes, we encourage partnership, but note that if you're selected to be one of our CBOs, we're only gonna have an executed agreement with the main person. So just wanted to be clear that the communication will be through that primary applicant. They'll be the ones that will be responsible for at least providing us with the invoices or as a main point of contact. So just note that as well.
Can the funds be used to purchase a van or a truck from U-Haul?
Not a purchase, but a rental. And we have a number of them. I think they rent them for 24 hours or so. And again, we have our scheduled pickups once a month. So plan accordingly.
To the pickup process, I also want to highlight that one of our current partners actually brings like a very cool bicycle to haul the bikes they're picking up onto their bike and they take them away. So feel free to get as creative as possible with your pickup process.
Thank you for that, Nancy. Um, if you have a bike mechanic on staff, or is it better to contract the service out? I feel like that is really up to, the individual organization. I think Nancy alluded to, that could be a partnership with a local bike shop or maybe hiring someone makes more sense for your organization. Another good question here. Is there a cap for administrative cost?
Well, the cost, again, it's a grant for $35,000 and that's for per year. So basically the date as set of our executed agreement. Again, November, we'll set a date. And again, it's $35,000 per year.
Any other questions, folks? Um, Two more came in. Is this program 1 year with an additional year for another 35,000?
It's a 2-year program, but the funding, it's 35K per year. So when you apply, we're looking for a 2-year commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Not sure I fully understand this question. This was referring to the cost for the bicycle repair person. I think maybe I think you might be asking if you can use the costs associated. Oh, is there a cap for the bicycle repair person? Is there a cost cap for that?
We do not have a cost cap for that again, but we do expect all these different expenses. We do expect expenses for bicycle repairs. If all you're doing is applying for labor, that's not gonna be enough. We won't accept that. I mean, we expect it as a whole package. Potentially, you might not charge us for transportation just because you might have your own van. But for the most part, I mean, it shouldn't be the sole expense of your grant. So we do expect, again, the different things, like we mentioned this year, we would like to see that the selected CBOs also provide with bicycle helmets and lights and anything that might improve safety for these bicycle recipients when they use these bicycles. So again, be aware of that. We're looking for the whole, a number of expenses, not just solely labor.
And to clarify, you would list these expenses in the required attachment A, which is the expense outline. So whether it's labor or any safety gear, like this is definitely the place where you should outline those expenses.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. This is a great question. Do companies have to pay taxes on the grant?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We can get back to you on that question. Can note it and then ask someone from our I guess billing department on that. So we have about 10 minutes left on this informational webinar just for everyone's knowledge. We have time to answer more questions if you have them.
Also note that if you can't think of any questions that come up at this time, I think it's a lot of information and you'll probably need some time to digest even the presentation. You also have the opportunity to reach out to us via email through adoptabike@metro.net. So if anything comes up after that, that's the best way to reach out to us, only because it's a shared inbox that both me, David, and Nancy have access to.
Mhm.
So feel free.
Yeah, if there's anything else that comes up, please reach out. We're happy to provide support during this application process period. Can Metro provide a sample of the waiver that recipients need to sign?
We can,
Yeah,
I mean, um,
yeah, if you reach out to us by email,
yeah, reach
we
out
have,
to us directly. We can share that with you, what we've been using. And it's very basic information and it's just their name and, we're not asking for too much detail. Again, we understand that sometimes people have safe, privacy concerns. So, um, sometimes we receive things where they might just include their name, for example, but again, yeah, reach out to us at adoptabike@metro.net and we can provide you a copy.
are bike locks and bike pumps an allowed expense to be included with the bikes at time of distribution?
Can you repeat that question? I mean, when CBOs pick up the bikes, they basically just pick up the bikes. We don't, I mean, it sounds like that might be a separate expense.
Yeah. I mean, our with bike locks, I mean, yeah, we anticipate that the CBO or the organization is storing those bikes before distribution. So I'm not sure how that would work. With bike pumps, if you need more pumps to, I guess, fill up the tires, I suppose that could be an expense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
I also wonder if this is pointing to an eligible expense that can be given to bike recipients. For instance, if they're distributing a bike, can they also purchase bike locks or bike pumps for those who are adopting the bike?
yeah. Um, how is Metro and the CBO protected if a recipient gets hurt on the bike?
I think that's the purpose for the release of liability. We People reach out to us, people from the public will reach out to us directly at adoptabike@metro.net because they know it exists and they'll try to reach out and ask for a bike. I think some of the existing CBOs, when they come to pick up, there's people that are just walking by and they want a bike. We don't just hand them the bike. That's why we have a CBO and we rely on the CBO and this partnership to secure and make sure that these bikes are safe for the recipients, to their best of their capability, and somebody who actually has the knowledge to fix a bike. And also, that's what the release of liability is for.
Great. Are there any restrictions on donating, transferring, or disposing of bikes? So I think this is asking about the distribution of bicycles once they are collected. And I think we do provide guidance on where we what the intentionality behind the distribution is. So, we're looking at equity focused communities, those, who are the most needy. I think that's the guidance that we're providing. I don't know, Adela, if you want to add anything, or Nancy, please go ahead.
Um, I mean, we ask that you're creative regarding where you distribute and to have a far reach as possible again.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think we provide a template for those who are adopting the bicycles. Is that correct, Adela? Where you would also track the bicycle ID number
A template.
with additional information such as demographic or the bicycle recipient survey.
Yeah, I think it's there as well.
Hmm.
And the things that we ask, and that's again another thing that we'll request from you when you submit your invoice package, the back of documentation for the expenses that you're claiming, even the labor, and kind of a breakdown of, how much and the name of the staff and, what the roles are and the different types of expenses as well.
Great. Another question just came in. Does it enhance our ability to be selected if we have a match or donation of funds to add to the 35,000, or does it help our application if the CBO provides additional services at no cost to the grants? I mean, I think again, we're broadly speaking, we're looking for capacity and your ability to take this on with, the modest, grant allowance and distribute it to as many, individuals as possible on behalf of Metro. So if you can show additional capacity, whether it's through funding or through partnership, I think that will be really well received. Are recipients required to register their bike? Not, no. Okay, we're in the final 4 minutes, folks. So, like I said, we can stay till that time. After that, we do encourage you to use this email if anything comes up. Um, Again, the application is open till early August. So,
And following this workshop, we will send a follow-up email with relevant links to the application as well as Metro's Equity Hub, for instance. I think we will also work on compiling the questions we received today and including those in our FAQ.
And just another thing to note,
yeah.
I mean, if in doubt, I think the best way also to be in the know of where we are in the process, or if there's any updates or something should come up. Also, check on, somewhat regular basis and kind of like our Metro Adopt a Bike, our Adopt a Bike program on our Metro's landing page with the most recent and most updated information as well. That's also a great resource if you want to know, if you want any updates on the program.
Thank you. Two more questions. Is the Metro logo to be on outreach materials? On the CBO's outreach? No, I don't believe so. There's no requirement for that. And then I see this as a follow-up. I didn't hear if you answered. Can you partner with an organization that was previously awarded? Yes, you may partner with an organization that was previously awarded. Okay. There are no further questions. Again, we encourage you to reach out to us by email if anything comes up after. We will share this presentation recorded. So, we encourage you to look back on it, to answer some of these questions and, get more information. And we are really excited for all of you to apply. We're excited for the next phase of this grant program that has so much impact, for LA County.